name is Leslie Roman.
Miss Roman, what do you do?
Well, ma'am, I'm an accident reconstructionist.
Where did you go to school to become an accident reconstructionist?
I went to the University of Texas at Austin, where I received my bachelor's in engineering.
Now, before we talk about your work in this case, I'd like to talk to you about your experience in accident reconstruction.
Okay.
What experience do you have in reconstructing accidents?
I have my own reconstructionist firm. I've been doing this for about 8 years now.
Now, when you're reconstructing an accident, what kinds of facts do you need?
Ideally, I need the crash scene, the scene of the crash, the car that crashed, or the cars that were involved in the crash, any photos that the police officers have taken, the crash team report, and the police reports, and ideally, eyewitnesses.
Did you have access to such facts in this case specifically?
I did. The police department here in Midland was very cooperative.
And what methods do you use to analyze these facts?
I take all of that information that I just mentioned and apply it to some formulas in a primer that all accident reconstructionists rely on, and I reconstruct the accident from that information.
Now, in your work in this accident specifically, what factors did you focus on?
Ma'am, I focused on the dangers and the conditions of the road on that night.
Now, Ms. Roman, do you believe it would be helpful for the jury to use a demonstrator to explain these dangers and conditions?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, may the witness step down to make use of a demonstrator?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, permission to move about the courtroom to see the demonstrator.
Please do.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Now, Ms. Roman, you were talking about the dangers and conditions of the road.
Yes.
Let's talk about the conditions first.
All right.
How did the conditions play a part in this accident?
Well, the conditions of the road are the guardrails and the shoulder. Now, if you could hand me that red marker. The guardrail at the time of the accident only extended to about here, and the accident was right here, meaning that any
Objection,
trees...
Your Honor. This evidence has not yet been admitted into trial.
I believe it's just being used for demonstrative right now. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, we won't be entering this into evidence. We're using it as a demonstrative.
It won't be entered into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Then I'll overrule the objection.
Guardrails, yes. The guardrail extended to about here, meaning that any trees past this point on any part of the curb are exposed to motorists.
Now, you said that was the condition of the guardrail at the time of the accident.
Yes.
Is it different now?
Actually, it is. The guardrail at this point in time extends all the way to about here.
Now, you also mentioned something about the road itself as a condition. What do you mean by that?
Well, as you can see, the road is very curvy, and there aren't any signs warning motorists about the upcoming curve. In addition to that, there's a very short shoulder. Now, shoulders are just the parts on the other side of those white lines that you're driving on, meaning that it's easy for motorists to drive off the road. And at that point in the curve, it's a very steep embankment, meaning that since that shoulder is so short, it's easy for you to drive off and possibly tip your car.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation as to what is easy for a driver to do.
Your Honor, Ms. Roman is an expert in accident reconstruction. She has worked on many cases involving many accidents, and she would know what would be dangerous or not dangerous for a driver to do.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah.
I maintain that this was not, she did not say what was dangerous or not dangerous. She said what was easy for a driver to do, and that is still speculation.
No, I'm going to sustain your objection.
Move to strike that answer, Your Honor.
The jury will disregard that last statement.
Now, Ms. Roman, you also said something about dangers of the road. What part did dangers what role did the dangers of this road play in this accident?
Well, where the road is located, actually, it's a very forested area, meaning you run into problems with branches on the trees falling into the roadway, causing problems for motorists. And in addition to that, with heavy forested areas, you run into wildlife.
Now, why would wildlife be a problem?
In my experience, critters don't really care about our cars. They have a tendency to run into the roadway and cause lots of problems, meaning that you can either hit the critter or swerve to avoid it. And Miss Dawson, in this case, swerved to avoid an animal.
Now, where did Miss Dawson swear to avoid an animal?
She swerved at this point here, meaning that an animal, or a deer in this case, jumped into the roadway right about here.
Objection or speculation as to what was actually there. I don't believe that proper foundation has been laid that an animal actually came down to that point.
Do a response?
Your Honor, it was, Ms. Roman testified that when she was analyzing facts in this case, she applied proper principles and methods, which included a primer and formulas in that case. And she said, in this case, some of the facts that she used were the dangers and conditions of the road. Therefore, there being an animal in the road would be a fact that she used in this case, and she applied reliable principles and methods to that fact to determine that there was, in fact, an animal in the road.
Your Honor, may I respond? If I may make an offer of proof.
You may.
This expert witness can pose no, or cannot certainly testify that there was an animal in the road, so to go off that assumption is going off of uncertainty and should not be admitted.
Where did she get the information about animal on the road?
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah.
From the defendant, it is Ms. Danny Dawson's testimony that there was an animal in the road, but no other witness in this case certifies that.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yeah.
Ms. Roman was asked specifically to investigate Ms. Dawson's statement that there was an animal in the road. Ms. Dawson, Ms. Roman has not said certainly that there was an animal in the road. She's allowed to testify that that is the most likely and probable cause of this accident. There was an animal or something in the road because Ms. Dawson's actions and trajectory are consistent with that.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Then I maintain that she can go through her entire analysis and come back and formulate that conclusion if she does believe that it is the most probable cause. But I don't believe that that will happen, and I would not like to start this testimony with the assumption that there was an animal in the road.
So your problem is that she just said that there is an animal on the road, not that there may have been an animal on the road?
Yes, Your Honor.
Basically. You know, I'm going to sustain that.
Move to strike.
And I'm going to move to strike your last statement. Counsel, if you want her to explain what happened and then come back and speculate on possible causes, then you could feel free to do that.
Yes, Your Honor.
But she can't conclusively state that there was a deer on the road.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Roman, why do you believe Ms. Dawson swerved off the road that night?
Well, what you have to pay attention to is the angle at which a motorist leaves the roadway. The angle at which Miss Dawson left the roadway is consistent with her seeing an object suddenly appear in her line of vision and her swerving to avoid it. Now, Miss Dawson didn't immediately get back on the road. She maneuvered her car and maintained control of her vehicle all the way around the most dangerous part of the curve and re-entered the roadway, which is consistent in all the accidents that I've been instructed with swerving to avoid some kind of obstacle or an enemy.
So, Ms. Roman, what do you believe to be the cause of this accident?
Based on all the information I've obtained and the road and conditions of the road, it's consistent that Ms. Dawson swerved to avoid an animal, most likely a deer.
Time. Your Honor, I pass witness.
Just a
You can be seated.
Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Ms. Roman, you're being paid for your testimony today, correct?
There's a very good distinction that you need to make. I'm not paid for what I say, I'm paid for my time.
You're being paid $200 an hour for your time, correct?
My standing fee
And you'll get an extra $2,000 for appearing in court today, right?
for the time I'm spending in court, yes.
And have you ever appeared to testify for the prosecution in a criminal case?
No, I haven't. That's because the prosecution has their paid experts that are employed by the police department. I have my own private firm.
Now, Dr. Roman, you based your testimony off of the affidavits of several people, including Ms. Dawson, correct?
That is right.
And in Ms. Dawson's testimony in court today, she stated that she wasn't speeding at the time of the accident, correct?
I believe that is what Ms. Dawson said.
And now, from your analysis, you formulated that she was going 51 miles per hour at the time of the crash, correct?
That's right, she was.
And so that means that she was speeding, correct?
She was speeding before she exited the roadway. However, when she re-entered the roadway, she was going at the speed limit, which is 35 miles an hour.
So before Ms. Dawson left the roadway, she was going 51 miles per hour, correct?
Yes, before she swerved to avoid that deer.
And the speed limit at that